her internship here with us. She is enrolled in the Master of Divinity program at Iliff School of Theology, and she's also a chaplain at UTMB Hospital in Clear Lake. She holds a Master of Fine Arts from Washington University in St. Louis. Her novel, The Mountains Under Her Feet, was published in 2023. Please welcome Catherine Vance.
I just thought I would take just a couple of moments to acknowledge what we have all just been through this week. So I just want to acknowledge the mystery and the power of nature and feel gratitude for air conditioning and for safety, and just to take a few breaths together to center and reflect. So if you're comfortable, just settle yourself in your seat and put one hand on your heart and the other hand on your belly, just in sympathy for us all. And so just feel the wonder of your spirit in this container that's uniquely you. And breathe in, and then a long breath out. And now just move out just a little and see yourself connected to everyone in this room, everyone who has been through some of the same things that you have been through, some of these same experiences, and also people that you know are of a like mind. So let's breathe in and out again. And now move just a little further out so that you can see our region, you can see our state and our nation, all the things that we're going through. And we're still so small, but we are in these unique and very special bodies, but yet with an even wider connectedness to all our hopes and concerns. So breathe in, and then breathe out. And now move out into space just as far as you care to go, maybe to the moon, maybe to the outside of the solar system, and maybe even further into the galaxy where you're really just a tiny speck. We're all so insignificant and our worries are so non-existent, but yet we're still here. We're still here. And so let's just feel the miraculous connectedness of all of that. And now let's return closer and closer back to this moment, back to this flesh and blood. Having released so much, we return in gratitude, full of possibility, full of love, and breathe out and in one last time. Amen. Well, I have a poem for you from Mary Oliver. Many of you know her. And I selected this poem a while back as I was thinking about this service, but the words are almost eerily apropos for what we have gone through, and it's called The Journey. One day you finally knew what you had to do, and you began, though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble. And you felt the old tug at your ankles. Mend my life, each voice cried. But you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do. Though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations. Though their melancholy was terrible. It was already late enough, and a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice which you slowly realized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save. The words of Mary Oliver. Well, many of you know me. I've been coming to this congregation off and on now for about 3 years, but today I come to you in a little bit of a different capacity. I've actually moved here to Galveston, and for the next 2 years, I'll be pursuing Unitarian Universalist ministry as your intern. And so to that end, a service learning agreement has been created in which different aspects of ministry are defined. And I have a committee, and I'd like those people to stand. If they feel comfortable, it's Susan and Shirley and Maggie. I don't know if Maggie's okay. And Mary, who was online, and Rachel. Yes, so thank you all for helping me in this journey. And my supervisor will be Dan King, who is the Minister Emeritus of First UU in Houston. So I'll be preaching once a month and doing things in the areas of pastoral care, social justice, spiritual development, administration, all of those different aspects. And we're still in the process of determining what those things will be. But I really look forward to helping this congregation in its journey. And I will be serving, but as it goes, I will also be learning. And so all of you are my instructors and my mentors. And so we're going to be going on an adventure together. And to a very great extent, you get to choose what the outcome of that adventure will be. So that's the reading from Jerry. So those of you who raised children in the 70s, 80s, 90s, or those of you who were kids in those eras might remember that series of books, those Choose Your Own Adventure books. And the premise is that the reader takes on the role of the main character and makes choices that determine the outcome of the plot. And the core idea of these books originated with a man who told bedtime stories to his daughters about a character named Pete. And Pete lived on an island. And one night he didn't know what he was going to do with Pete, and so he asked his daughters to create some different paths. And then, so he thought up some endings for those different things. And they turned into an actual series. And the first one came out in 1975, and it was called The Adventures of You on Sugar Cane Island. Well, Jerry just read a piece from The Magic of the Unicorn. And don't you feel that if ever there was a religious perspective that is not your normal horse of a religion, it's Unitarian Universalism? So we are the unicorn of faith and capable of really amazing things. But sometimes we're viewed with suspicion because we're different. We're susceptible to being misunderstood. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So here we are. We get to decide what happens to this beast, the magic unicorn of Galveston Island. And we can let it wander around while its magic horn gets chopped off, or we can protect it and take care of it and use its powers to help the world. So the opening pages of these books say, this story is different. You and you alone are in charge of what happens in the story. There are dangers, choices, adventures, and consequences. You must use all of your numerous talents and much of your enormous intelligence. And at any time, you can go back and make another choice, alter the path of your story, and change its results. Well, I just love that because it sounds so much like a UU congregation, a group of people who are very independent, who have numerous talents and enormous intelligence, and are ready to take action to create their story. But these instructions also seem to recognize that people who say they're ready to forge a narrative may be tentative. They may be unsure about what they're going to do, may be afraid that they'll make a bad decision. They will decide, I don't know if we have enough money, we don't have enough energy, we don't have enough people. But what these instructions also tell me is that it's good to be excited about the journey and to not worry about making mistakes. So when you're choosing an adventure, there's no such thing as a bad choice, unless you keep banging into the same dead end over and over. So if you cut your hair and you don't like it, you just go back to the hairdresser or you wait for it to grow out, no problem. Maybe you've had 3 jobs in 3 years in 3 different states, but that's not failure, that's information. So you can still alter the course of your story. You just need to try it again with a better strategy. So this is a lesson that we can apply to our individual lives. And Well, I've been choosing my own adventure a lot the past few years. I went through a divorce. I moved back to Texas after many years. I applied to teach English at various schools. That was what I was an English professor. But I saw COVID stop that plan. So I went to work at an antique store, and finally I decided I needed to have a bigger vision for myself and do something that I felt really put my talents and my compassionate nature to best use. And so that's how I wound up in seminary, and that's how I wound up in a chaplaincy program at MD Anderson. And so now I'm here. But I'd like for a minute to take that metaphor and apply it to the congregation as a whole. Let's make the congregation the character with the choices. So we have all these opportunities to have fun together and to grow spiritually and for the world to open up as we help others make more connections. So what do we want to do? And our book going forward can truly be written with any outcomes that we want. So normally, to know where a path will lead for a congregation, there might be a process in which 3 elements are formulated, and those elements are mission and covenant and vision. Well, we do have a mission, and in part it says our purpose is to be a visible, enduring, religious, liberal presence in our community. And then as for the covenant, we say it every Sunday. It's right here on our wall. But what is the vision? What is the vision? Our plan for that mission and our picture of who we want to be in 5 years or 10 years and beyond. So maybe as our congregation begins to specifically clarify that, name goals and develop steps in the execution and manifestation of a future, I'm here to help with that. So our plot might involve attracting new members, younger members. It might have to do with fundraising and pledges, revitalizing social outreach, working with other UU congregations or other liberal congregations, Christian congregations in the area. And if we run down a trail and we find a brick wall or we realize, nope, that's not what we want, just flip back a few pages and start the adventure in a new direction. So, because as long as we believe in the narrative and keep going, there will be success. So anybody who's ever lost more than 10 pounds or anybody who's ever bought a house for the first time, you know how you don't focus on where you are at that moment. You just keep yourself going forward in curiosity and determination and conviction that you can bring this, whatever this new thing is, to pass. And I recently found out about one of the sister congregations here in Galveston, which is the Central Methodist Church, and how years ago they had as many as 900 members. And then it slowly dwindled until in the aughts, they had nearly less than 100 members, down to nothing. They were down to 4. Oh my gosh, it's worse than I thought. But then in 2014, they began to revitalize, and they truly are a presence here in Galveston today and making such a difference. So everything depends on desire. Everything depends on desire. I listened to a podcast recently called A Slight Change of Plans, and they interviewed a writer named Malcolm Gladwell, and he writes books like Tipping Point and Blink, and he writes about success and talks about how people change for the better and change society. And he says, this is no surprise, that getting something new accomplished is just simply to believe that you can. Just to believe that you can. And that has proven to be the most significant variable for achievement. So in our future plans, as a congregation, it doesn't matter so much that we are isolated on an island. It's not the most important variable that whether we're old or young, not even whether we're liberal or conservative necessarily. The most important variable is our belief in being able to do whatever it is we want to do. And so, as an example, I just think about that period of time when people started to think about gay marriage, to believe that there could be gay marriage. And for decades, for centuries even, LGBTQ people felt that they had to keep that dream in a small, secret little box. And if they allowed themselves to think about same-sex marriage at all, they immediately put it back in. And finally, what was deemed impossible became a conscious desire, and then a spoken goal, and then finally a reality because people believed it should be possible, and damn it, they were going to keep trying until it really happened because it was the right thing. It was the human need. So everything depends on what you want to tell yourself and to believe that it can be so. So if your heart is in your dream, no request is too extreme, as Jiminy Cricket sang to Pinocchio. So I invite you to imagine whatever solutions may be to whatever dream we dare to dream, be it in this congregation or be it in your lives. I heard a story about people attending Harvard Business School and the things that they were able to achieve. Well, outsiders might say, well, yeah, but these are the brainiest people. They've got money, right? And it's Harvard, so no wonder that they were able to do that. But the common denominator for their success turned out to be their belief in their own awesomeness. They just made a decision to not let anything get in the way of their dreams, and they didn't take a no for an answer out of the gate. So sometimes when you are trying to live your way into your future, you don't know what it is that you really want. It's okay to take some steps toward that destination, even though that destination is still forming in your mind. And to make a plan and then find that you need to go a different way. What's not good is if you have no enthusiasm for the future, or if you're stuck in a pattern that's not working or have even given up hope. So we are Unitarian Universalists. We offer loving acceptance and diversity and intelligent, thoughtful inquiry, and we didn't come this far only to come this far. So I want to tell you the story of a congregation that did lose its desire. And I have to say, it's kind of like Dickens' Christmas Carol, where the bleak version where the ghost shows Marley Christmas past, and he lives to himself, all isolated in his cranky little world. And it's the same kind of thing that can happen to people when they get stuck in their way of doing things and they don't take risks, and when they lose an ability to envision the future. And so this is a true story. I told you I used to be an antiques dealer, and I still do really love a good find. I'm so excited to start to explore Galveston for those things. And so when I found out that the Antique Center in Alvin, which is where my mother and my sister live, when I found out that it was going out of business, I was there. And so I was looking all around for a good find, and I saw this sign on a wall on a booth that was 60% off. And it was a vintage tin sign, and it said Universalist Church. And I said, oh my gosh, it had a big globe on it. And there was no address, but it did say something like the corner of Grant and Broadway. And I thought, that's a piece of some congregation's story. I should rescue it. And at 60% off, I thought, I can rescue it. And so I thought, well, first I'll go home and research. And I found where this congregation was, and it was in a little New England town. And so I actually called the number and ended up speaking to the board chair. And I knew that I had the right place because the street sign was the same. And she called me back, and I said, I would love to buy this sign for you guys and return it to you. I just thought that would be a nice full circle. Well, she started telling me a really sad story about how the congregation had dwindled and dwindled over the years since the Universalist days. And she remembers the sign. It dated back to the 1940s, and it had gone into storage when there was the merger of the Unitarians with the Universalists in 1961. And at some point, someone had decided to clean out the basement, and they took that sign and they put it out by the curb, and some industrious person picked it up and took it to a flea market, and it made its way to Texas. But anyway, now they were down to only 30 people, and all of them elderly, and they had to wear coats during the services because they couldn't afford to heat the building, and it's just sounding more and more like Dickens to me. And all the young people had gone off to the next town, to the Congregationalist church and the bigger UU church with a religious education program. So they were really just waiting to die out. And it just broke my heart because of what had become of them, and the fact that she did not have any sense of excitement and wonder to have discovered their sign at this antique mall in South Texas, and she didn't see them wanting it back. Yeah. Well, I believe in Unitarian Universalism and in its power to bring people together in all its wondrous inclusivity, in our truly sacred ability to welcome and love all people and fight for justice for others and for the earth. So instead of this congregation becoming older and smaller, what if what we are right now is a core of strength and wisdom, a bonded seed pod for the future UU Fellowship of Galveston County? 1/3 of the nation is secular, is non-religious, and they are looking for a home, a spiritual home. And so we can prepare a place for some of those people. We can welcome in those who are spiritual seekers, as well as do what is needed to support and sustain those who are already here. So what can we be? I hope in the time ahead we can start to take dreaming further, determining what we should be, and then doing the innovation and the creation to actualize whatever vision we may have. Because there's so much here to be proud of. The fabulous potlucks, the participating in Juneteenth, the small group meetings, the empty bowls creation. So by being proud of our history, maybe we can feel the possibility of the future. So I look forward to hearing what makes your skin tingle, what makes your blood quicken. Be thinking about this. I look forward to it. Well, in the Christian New Testament, there's a story, a parable, and Jesus tells his disciples about 3 servants who were given talents or coins by their master. And one receives 5 coins, and one receives 3 coins, and one receives 1 coin. And he says, okay, I want you to go out there and I want you to invest these and make me proud. And I'll check in with you later. And so sometime they all get together again, and the master says, well, how did you do? And the one who had 5 talents said, well, here you go, I doubled your money. And so the master said, well done, good and faithful servant, thanks. And the one who had 3 said, here you go, I doubled your money. And the master said, well done, good and faithful servant. And the one who had just 1 said, well, I was kind of afraid I would lose it. And you're kind of a hard, punitive man, and so I just buried it. And now I dug it up, and here it is back. And the master said, get out, you are of no use to me. Well, when I was young, I didn't understand this story. I kind of was intimidated by this, and I felt sorry for this servant. And I thought this was a cruel thing to do, that this expectation had been placed on this servant. But now the parable tells me something that the servant didn't learn, that we can't be so self-concerned and fearful that a thing can't be done. And we must be willing to do things in new ways. We must be willing to take risks because we are in service to something greater than ourselves. We're in service to ourselves, but also to this church, this community, this wonderful, crazy unicorn of a religion we call Unitarian Universalism, which has so much potential to love and guide and connect people in ways that no other faith is doing. So let's start with great joy to formulate our next narratives, our next adventure for all the good we have to bring ourselves and others. And if our heart is in our dreams, and I know it is, we can do it. It can come to us, and I'm here to help, and thank you for having me. So let no one stop us from being our most amazing selves and our most amazing fellowship. Amen.